Hey, good morning. Welcome to Miles City Church Online. My name's Travis. I'm the lead pastor at Miles City, and this is
Ryan, lead pastor of Lanterns Church.
Oh,
Hey.
Lanterns. That's right. And Lanterns, if you guys didn't know, we love to church plant. We love being a part of church planting. And Ryan, you were our 7th church planter. You came to our church week 7, and on our 7-year anniversary, you were launched out. And then now you've accomplished your
Week 7. We've 7 weeks.
7 weeks. Dude, would you just tell everyone what the heck is going on with Lanterns after 7 weeks?
Yeah, it's been cool with the help of being sent out by Miles City. We've been in the city of Wayne intentionally meeting people, new people, unchurched people, coming to hear the gospel of Jesus, while other people finding a church home to serve and help out. It's been really cool how we're connecting with the mayor and the other organizations in Wayne and just being a light in the city that God called us to be in.
So cool.
It's been cool.
Well, we're so happy and proud of you guys. And if you listen, we're glad that you're watching online, but listen, I mean, there's nothing better than being in the room. It's not like a guilt trip. I'm just saying, if you haven't been in the room ever, or you haven't been in the room in a while, we want to invite you out to Miles City at our Lyon location, at our Plymouth location, and Lanterns Church in Wayne, Michigan. So check it out. Man, I mean, I also feel like we got to give people a challenge.
Yeah, I like challenges. Who doesn't like a good challenge?
So why don't we give everyone the 3-week challenge?
3-week challenge.
What's that, Ryan?
What that is, we believe that just like when you watch your favorite movie over and over and over again, it gets better and better, and you can get to learn more of the words, get into the scenes.
What's your favorite movie?
It's Gladiator or Braveheart. Probably Gladiator, then Braveheart. But freedom, and then what you do in life echoes for all eternity.
You're not going to ask me mine?
It's Lord of the Rings.
Yes, it is!
I know you, man. Lord of the Rings, nerd. No, just kidding. I love that movie. But anyways, as you know how you can enjoy something and understand it more the more you see it, we believe even in a more important way is accepting the 3-week challenge. And we believe that if you come to Miles City, not just once, not just twice, but 3 times, you'll get to fully understand what Miles City is and how God is working in and through here. We also hope and believe you'll start to see a change in your very own life. So please take the 3-week challenge.
That's true. And hey, for any of you kiddos out there that are watching and getting bored already, don't worry. At the end of this, there's an experience designed just for you. If you can't watch it right now, just bug your parents and you can tell them, and they can watch it after at any given time, on demand. Kids City, on demand. We got a couple announcements we got to talk about, okay? Before we dive into the message. First announcement is there is a women's event, a Christmas Advent event that's coming December 4th. And it's a Sunday night. You're not going to want to miss it. It's a ladies' gathering, so you got to be a lady, okay? And
Must be a lady.
So Ryan, you can't go.
Can't go.
Can't go.
I won't be there.
Ryan,
you should.
That's right. So milescity.com/events, an amazing gathering for all the ladies of Miles City. And hey, if anyone wants to come from Lanterns, they can come too.
That would be awesome.
Wouldn't that be cool?
We'll let them know.
Yeah, let them know. Why not? What else should we talk about? The other thing we should talk about is we're landing the plane on our Extra Mile series. And if you didn't know, our Extra Mile series is based around us going above and beyond our normal generosity to do something that we couldn't do on our own, but that we do collectively together.
Together.
And this
I feel
year...
like we should say together.
Okay.
Collectively.
Together.
It's just
and
better.
I'm telling you what, hey, there's Maki. Dude, get over here, man. Run, quick, quit in.
Yeah,
Quit in.
rolling,
Run, Maki. No, like run.
Red light means we're recording.
Like run in. Like, come on, quick, we're recording, Maki. Get in. Get in, Maki. Come on, run, Maki. Where are you?
On the count of 3.
Hey, Maki's here. What's up? We're at Church Online right now. It's
man.
Church Online.
Hey,
this is
Lead
Maki.
pastor of
What is this?
Hikari City.
Hi.
Dude, man, you're meeting today. It's Sunday.
Yeah.
And how's it
Sunday.
going? You getting ready for service?
It's going very well.
Why don't you just speak in Japanese for us, man, and tell us what's going on?
Okay. In Japanese.
Sure, yeah, everyone will understand.
皆さんこんにちは。私はですね、今、リボニアじゃないな、プリムスにある教会で牧師をしています。毎週日曜日集まっています。お腹空きました。この二人何言ってるかわからないので何言ってるか
I don't know what you're saying, but man, that's amazing.
Trust him.
Hey man, you better go get set up, man. You don't want to be late for
All right,
church.
cool, yeah.
Hey, konnichiwa. Good to see you, man. Okay. Anyways, that was random, but Maki was in the house, and we get excited when we see
Yes,
Maki,
we do.
right? I mean, who doesn't get excited? I mean, that smile,
What a smile.
what a smile. Anyways, speaking of going extra, okay, this year, you know, last year was all about church planting and stuff. This year is all about taking our students to the next level. And man, we really believe that if we want to see revival in our city, it's all about empowering, strengthening, equipping the next generation. And man, we're excited about our student program, and we're excited to take it to the next level. You've been a part of that in
Yeah,
the past,
for
and
years.
so there's a lot of fire going on right now. I mean, just tons of fire everywhere in the hearts of students. And so instead of us just babbling on about it, why don't you hear from them?
What is your favorite thing about Drive?
Ooh, my favorite thing about Drive is definitely our student worship and the community.
Oh, the community for sure. I love spending time with everybody, greeting new people, and just like having a good time here. You know, my leader Mills over here is my brother for real. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's a good time here. You know, just it's a vibe for real.
What is your favorite thing about Drive?
It's probably the people here and the services.
I love the leaders here. The leaders here are amazing. They just really brighten up my week.
What is your favorite thing about Drive?
Everything. Being able to see all my friends here, having fun, playing games, just having a great time learning about God.
My favorite thing is definitely the community and how like I feel connected to everyone. Like I feel like I know everyone and that like I'm close to everyone and I could talk to any of the leaders and that it's like I feel very welcome. Like I could come here with like any problem and they would welcome me and pray over me about it, and like I feel like the community just is really connected and like close.
And how has Drive changed your life?
It's camp has inspired me to get baptized, and it helped me grow in my faith with God.
Having a good community around us with our leaders too, pushing me closer to God.
It changed my life because it's a place where I can, well, just kind of learn about God, be with friends, talk about my feelings, like somewhere I can go for safety.
How has Drive changed your life?
It's really made me closer to God and just closer with all my friends and growing in my relationship with God with them.
I mean, it gets you closer to God and closer connections with other people and friends, and gets you closer with them.
Drive is like with all high schoolers and middle schoolers, it feels like it's towards me, like I'm the person that they're talking about or that they're connecting to.
Incredible, incredible, incredible. Love hearing what God is doing through our students here and our church family. And so, Miles City family, man, what better way to invest in the next generation? And so, we just want to encourage you. Again, it's going to take 100% of us. It's going to take all of us saying no to something that we love, to say yes to something that we love even more. That's right, to say no to something that we love, to say yes to something that we love even more. And so, you'll see right here in this link, Miles City Extra Mile, there's an online commitment card where you can make a one-time gift towards that, or you can kind of space it out throughout the month and divide it throughout the whole year. And so just prayerfully consider what that means for you and your family. We've talked about specifically all of us thinking about our own kids or grandkids, or if we don't have kids, in a sense, adopt kids. We have 200 kids that come regularly on a regular basis. And so what if we all just adopted each one of those kids in a sense and put a number, and then man, we'd knock this goal right out of the water. And so let's do that together. And now, right now, we're gonna throw it to land the plane of our Extra Mile series, as we've been looking at the life of teenagers and how God has done incredible things through teenagers to change the world. And so today, I'm excited for you to hear from John Bowers, who is our location pastor at the Trails Church. And so, John, take it away.
Good morning, church family. So glad you're here with us today as we wrap up our Extra Mile series, XYZ. And we've been going through the Bible, taking a look at different stories where God uses youth to have a gigantic impact on their communities. And today we're going to take a look at a story of a little girl. Now, before we do that, I just want to take a moment and say that as adults, sometimes we can write off youth, right? We can write off, especially Gen Z. We say they're lazy, they're directionless, they don't know what they want to do with their lives, and we can come down hard on them. But the reality is sometimes they are the most suited people for specific things that God is calling them to do, things that we may not recognize as gifts, but they're gifted at. It reminds me of when I was younger. When I was younger, I was a valet at a casino, actually. And as I was there, I would park cars, and we had a special lot, and it was closer to the casino than any of the other lots. And so people would often see that lot so close to the building with empty parking spots, and they'd try to park their car in there, and we'd constantly have to tell them they had to move it. And we had all kinds of discussions with folks. Some were very civil, and some got into all-out arguments where we had to call building security. Those were fun. And so one day as I'm parking a car, I see a car with a driver I don't recognize pulling into an empty spot, and I realize I'm going to have to tell this person to move their car. So I pop out of my car, I start to run after the person, I scream out, "Hey!" But they don't respond. And then I realize that he's walking with his wife, and I scream out a little bit louder, "Hey!" Still nothing. They just keep walking. So I feel like I should have been heard at this point, and I'm kind of angry. So now I'm really moving fast, and I'm screaming, they're not responding, and then I realize in between those two adults, there was a young girl, and she was holding both of their hands, and it looked like she was leading them. Now, I knew that I was close enough to be heard now, so I yelled with everything I have, "Hey!" Still, the parents don't respond, but the little girl stops. And when she stops, she actually grabs both of their hands and pulls back like this to get them to stop. And they stopped and they looked down at her. And as I'm running up, I'm confused by this situation because I don't understand from afar what is taking place. I see the little girl start to do something with her hands, and finally, the parents look up at me. So me, being raised in the Midwest, I make eye contact with the dad, and I'm going to talk with him. And I'm like, "Hey, sir, you can't park your car here. You got to move." But he doesn't respond. Instead, he looks directly from me back down to his little girl. And she starts to do things with her hands again, and that's when I realize these folks are deaf. And this little girl is translating what I'm saying to them. Now, not only that, but the speed and the confidence with which she did it meant that this wasn't the first time that she'd done this. In fact, she was very accustomed to doing this for her parents. This little girl who couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old. And yet she is confidently telling them what I'm saying and then repeating back to me what they are saying in sign language. And it was amazing to me that somebody so young could do such an incredible thing. And I walked away from that experience with a couple of thoughts, not the least of which was, what am I doing with my life? I mean, here's this little girl, she's translating for her parents, and I'm parking cars for a living. So I felt a little bit bad about myself, but more importantly, I realized that sometimes we look at things the wrong way. When you think about this little girl's story, if I'd have told you there was a girl who could speak and hear just fine, but that both of her parents were deaf, you may say, "Man, that's a tough break for that little kid. That is sad news for that little girl." But in fact, that thing that would be viewed as a weakness or a detriment by everyone else was something that actually made her more capable. It made her stronger because she was able to go through that difficulty and she was able to do something that no one else could do in that situation. And when I think about Gen Z, they have a voice that's unique. It's all their own. And what we need as the church sometime is for them to translate the good news of Jesus to their peers. We have a great and glorious gift in the gospel of Jesus Christ. But sometimes we need the help of the young to translate that to their peers. And that's what we're talking about as we want to reach out to youth with this extra mile. So our story today is out of 2 Kings chapter 5, and we're going to start in verse number 1. Now, like all of our stories, this one involves a youth, but it might not be one that you've heard before, or at least not one that you've thought of, because most of us are probably more familiar with the end of this story rather than this little girl's impact at the beginning. She's the one that sets everything in motion, but lots of times she's forgotten. But today I want to take a look at her story, and I want to specifically look at 3 things that stood out to me about her as we read through it. And because we're taking a look at these things, I want us to understand some truths that are true, no matter what your age is. So as we take a look at today's scripture, we are going to find a way to apply these things to our life. But before we do that, before we get into God's word, I want to take a second to pray for me and pray for you as we explore God's truth together. So Lord, I just pray that you bless this time that we spend in your word together, Lord, that you would give us a real clarity about these truths, about these capabilities, these characteristics of this little girl, and how we can apply them to our lives today, Lord, as you continue to teach us through your word. In Jesus' name, amen. So our story starts, like I said, in 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 1. But before we get there, I just want to take some time to set the framework historically so we can understand exactly what the world was like at this time. Now, at the time, there was a nation called Israel. And at one point, they were an extremely powerful nation. They reached their pinnacle as they had a leader named David and then his son Solomon, who would bring the nation up to such heights that other nations would actually bring their leaders to Israel to learn how to do things. And Israel was a great and mighty nation, but over time, Solomon became influenced by the wives that he took from other nations and the gods that they served. And so by the time we got to the end of Solomon's reign, the nation had become pretty lukewarm in its faith. And by the time Solomon dies, the nation actually splits in two. It becomes fractured and divided. Does that sound familiar? A once proud nation that worships God, but suddenly loses its way and becomes fractured and divided? No, probably not. But our story today starts in a nation that's framed in this way. This little girl, she was raised in a nation where God had once been prominent, but had now been put on the back burner. The nation was split into 2 kingdoms, the northern and the southern kingdom. And the problem was the place that everybody worshiped up to that point was Jerusalem. But now Jerusalem was located in the southern kingdom. And because the northern kingdom didn't want its people going to the southern kingdoms for fear that they may switch allegiances, they decided to come up with their own place of worship. And unfortunately, they also decided to come up with a new religion, and they fell into idolatry. And so God sent prophet after prophet to the northern kingdom, trying to warn them to come back to the Lord and to put aside these idols. But the nation fell further and further down the drain. And if you read through the book of Kings, you'll see that they had one bad leader after another take the throne. And this is a story that continued for decades until we get to this point in 2 Kings. So let's take a look at 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 1, with that historical context in mind, what the nation is like at this time. And it says this: Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master and in high favor, because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. He was a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. Now the Syrians, on one of their raids, had carried off a little girl from the land of Israel, and she worked in the service of Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, "Would that my Lord were with the prophet who is in Samaria. He would cure him of his leprosy." So Naaman went in and told his Lord, "Thus and so spoke the girl from the land of Israel." And the king of Israel said, "Go now, and I will send a letter to the king of Israel." So, interesting story as we begin. Naaman is a leader in the army of Syria. And if you're familiar with the way that this looks at this time, Syria is right at the very northernmost point of Israel's northern nation. And so the Syrian army would come down and have little border skirmishes with those outlying encampments of Israel. And as they did, they would capture people, take them prisoner, and force them into a life of servitude and slavery. And that's where this little girl comes into the story. She is essentially kidnapped from her home and forced into slave labor in Samaria. But she just happens to work for this man, Naaman. Now, Naaman has a great reputation, and the Bible says really clearly that he has gotten many victories for the nation of Syria, but that they were given to him by the Lord. And so Naaman has a problem. His problem is he has leprosy. But this little girl has a few key characteristics that I believe lend themselves to an incredible impact in this story. And the first one that I want to point out as we read through this story is her reputation. Her reputation. Now, reputations we talk about all the time. We all know what a reputation is, right? It's the thing that we earn by the things that we do. Our reputation, good or bad, is something that we've typically earned. But this little girl had such a reputation that not only when she spoke was she listened to, but that what she said was acted upon. And that's pretty incredible considering the station that she operates in this house. She's a slave girl. But she must have done something to show these people that she could be counted on, that she was reliable. She had set such a good standard for her reputation that when she mentions the prophet in Samaria, they're ready to go right then, including the king of this nation, Syria. What an incredible reputation she must have had. We know that if this little girl was lazy or unreliable, that she wouldn't have been taken seriously, because we've all got those people in our lives, don't we? The ones who, when they speak, we stop what we're doing and we pay attention because we know from their reputation that what they're going to tell us is important, that it will mean something, that it will have an impact. And we have those people in our lives that when they speak, we roll our eyes, right? It's like, okay, let's see what so-and-so has to say. And they've usually earned that by a reputation of not following through with the things that they said they would do, a reputation of not being reliable. You see, a lot of people will listen when you say you're a Christian, and then they're going to watch. They're going to watch what you do. They're going to watch what you say. They're going to watch how you treat people, how you treat your wife, how you treat your children, how you treat your employees, how you treat your employer. They're going to pay attention to that stuff. All of that, how we treat people, is what builds our reputation. In fact, if you take a look at a little verse in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 3 and 4, it says this: "Never let loyalty and kindness leave you. Tie them around your neck as a reminder. Write them deep within your heart. Then you will find favor with both God and people, and you will earn a good reputation." The Bible has a real clear plan on how to earn a good reputation. It says that you need to have a life that's showing out loyalty and kindness. And if you can do that, you're going to earn the good reputation that you're looking for. How we treat others is what earns us our reputation. And it's important too. A reputation is incredibly valuable. In the case of this little girl, it set in motion an amazing story. And in your life, it'll allow you to have an impact as well. But you need to choose to have a good reputation. You need to put effort into gaining it. In fact, Solomon tells us in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 1, "Choose a good reputation over great riches. Being held in high esteem is better than silver and gold." A good reputation is important. And without a reputation that was good, this little girl could not have had the impact that she had in this story. But when she spoke, people listened to her. And that's the point. Has your reputation earned you the right to speak into people's lives? This little girl, by her reputation, had earned a right to speak into Naaman's life. The words that she gave him were going to change his life in a dramatic way, as we'll see later on. But lots of times when we're trying to communicate with others, we don't realize that there's something in the way, and lots of times it's our reputation. We need to be careful and make sure that we keep our reputation good. Let's look at it this way. If you had a neighbor and every day he came home and he kicked his dog, he screamed at his kids and screamed at his wife, then one day he knocks on your door and wants to talk to you about the love and grace of Jesus Christ, you're probably going to pass. Not because the love and grace of Jesus Christ aren't real and great things, but because you don't trust the messenger. Your reputation is incredibly valuable. This little girl's ability to have an impact in Naaman's life started by the choices she made before she ever spoke those words to go see the prophet. She had built a good reputation, and that gave her the right to speak into Naaman's life. The second thing that impresses me about this little girl was her faith. Her faith. We talk about faith a lot, especially in a church. We think about what it means and what it doesn't mean. But the important thing to remember in this situation is that this little girl wasn't in ideal circumstances. She'd been kidnapped from her home, forced into slavery. She'd probably been taught about God, but she'd seen a nation crumble around her because they didn't actually follow through on the things that they said they believed. And it would have been very easy for her to be a person that just didn't care anymore, that just didn't believe that God could act or show up or do anything powerful. It might have been perfectly reasonable to expect her to be that way. But that's not the way she was. She still believed her God was powerful. She still believed in him so much that she was willing to direct this man to the prophet in Israel. Why was she willing to do that? Because her faith wasn't shaken. Her faith wasn't shaken by her circumstances. You see, true faith allows us to look past our circumstances because we trust that our God is going to do what's best. Despite her circumstances, she didn't lose her faith. In fact, I wonder if she had this verse in mind from Psalms. Psalms 112, 6 through 7 says this. It says this, "For the righteous will never be moved. He will be remembered forever. He is not afraid of bad news. His heart is firm, trusting in the Lord." Now, faith is what allows us to look past our circumstances because we trust in our God. And there's no better place to learn about faith than Hebrews chapter 11. If you go there and read through some time, you're going to be met with example after example of Old Testament heroes and how their faith, despite their circumstances, carried them through to have gigantic impacts in history, their community, their kingdoms. It's an incredible lineage where faith allows us to overcome our circumstances like this little girl. She didn't let her circumstances hold her back. She didn't let her circumstances diminish her God. Instead, she believed in her God despite her circumstances, as did the people in Hebrews chapter 11. In fact, Hebrews chapter 11 sums it up this way. If you go to Hebrews chapter 11, verses 33 and 34, it says this, "By faith, these people overthrew kingdoms. They ruled with justice and received what God had promised them. They shut the mouth of lions, quenched the flames of fire, and escaped death by the edge of the sword. Their weakness was turned to strength. They became strong in battle and put whole armies to flight." These sound like some pretty incredible circumstances. If you think through a lot of these heroes and what they faced, they were. David faced a giant in Goliath, as we learned a few weeks ago. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego faced with an insurmountable odd, almost certain death, as they're thrown into a fiery furnace. And yet in each case, their faith carries them through those circumstances, through that difficulty, to have a gigantic impact. This little girl was no different. She believed in her God, despite the fact that she had faced hardship, despite the fact that she'd been separated from her family, forced into slavery, in a country where she'd never been before. And yet she's able to look at this man, Naaman's wife, and tell her, "I believe your husband should go see the prophet in Samaria. He can heal him." She hadn't lost her faith. Her faith is an incredible asset, an enviable characteristic of this little girl. And so my question to you today is, where is your faith? What are you putting your trust in? Are you letting your circumstances be bigger than your God? Are you putting your faith in God despite your circumstances, allowing him to carry you through those difficult things to bring you to a place where you can have a gigantic impact? The last thing that impresses me about this little girl is her compassion. Her compassion. Now, think about this situation. Naaman is a leopard. Now, for those of you who are confused, I don't mean that he was a cat with spots. I mean that he had a skin disease, a pretty terrible one. In fact, the way that it would attack your body is it deadened the nerves, and it would make you unable to feel pain or anything in your extremities. And eventually, over time, your skin would turn pale because essentially it was rotting away. You'd begin to lose pieces of your body because of the inability to feel pain, people wouldn't realize if they had open sores or infections. And to be a leper in this day and age was to be a public outcast. When we go through verse 1 again, it says, Naaman was a mighty man, but he had leprosy. That was put there intentionally so that we realized this was a hindrance, a roadblock, a disability for Naaman, a disadvantage. This leprosy was something that weighed on him, something that would set him apart from all that he had wanted to do in life. And so if you think about it, this little girl would have access to Naaman like no one else. She lived in his home. Despite his public outward appearance, which I'm assuming as a mighty man of valor, he would have been strong, he would have showed courage. But I'm guessing that when he was at home alone with his family, there might have been a different side to Naaman, one that expressed regret, one that expressed sadness, that this was the way that his life was going to end. And if you think about it, a mighty man of valor faced with a disease that slowly eats away at you, that makes you weak in front of everyone else, but doesn't kill you instantly, it just lets you languish over time. There couldn't have been a worse death sentence for this man than leprosy. And this little girl sees it all unfolding before her in this man's home. And if we think back to the circumstances that we mentioned before of her life, she could have had a very different reaction to Naaman. She could have looked at this man, somebody that had been part of the nation that had kidnapped her, and she could have said, good. He's getting what he deserves. He's getting God's judgment. This whole wicked nation deserves leprosy just like Naaman. But that's not the way she responded. Instead, she showed compassion. Some of you in this room today might be in that same boat where your circumstances are difficult, and when we look at other people's pain, instead of feeling compassion, we're happy. We're glad that they're suffering too. Lots of times when people go through difficult circumstances like this, when they feel like they've been unfairly pushed into situations that they don't deserve, we can spiral out of control. And I see a similar pattern developing time and time again. First, people become self-obsessed. They want to constantly whine about how difficult their life is, how unfair their circumstances are. And as they do that, they become more bitter and angry that this has happened to them. And as they become more bitter and angry, fewer and fewer people want to be part of their lives. And then they feel lonely, which starts the process over again. Now they feel that it's unfair, that they've been left by these people and they've been treated unfairly again. And they spiral down this hole of bitterness and anger. And bitterness and anger, just like Naaman's leprosy, is a slow killer of your soul. And the way through it is by compassion. Instead of focusing on your needs, focusing on the needs of others. This little girl's compassion shines through as she looks at this man who's suffering in front of her, and instead of seeing him as her enemy, instead of seeing him as her captor, she just sees this man's need and she wants to help. She's moved by compassion. That's illustrated for us in 2 Kings. If we go back to chapter 5, verse 3, and we look at a different translation, the New Living Translation, it reads this verse this way. It says, "One day the girl said to her mistress, 'I wish my master would go see the prophet in Samaria.'" In other words, this was her desire. She wanted to see this man healed. This man who was a ruler in a nation that had kidnapped her, that had waged war against her nation, that had put her into a life of slavery. All that she didn't care about. It was her desire to see this man healed. She showed compassion. You see, compassion is the first step. Compassion is where we recognize the need. Compassion is always the precursor to generosity. Compassion is when we recognize the need. Generosity is when we step up to meet that need. Now, this little girl's generosity, it was very modest. She just had a bit of advice for this man to go see the prophet in Samaria. But yet, this little bit of advice had a resounding impact. If you're not familiar with how this story ends, Naaman does in fact go to see the prophet Elisha. Elisha has him dip in the Jordan 7 times, and Naaman is healed. But not only is he healed, his life is forever changed. He walks away from that experience, rejecting all the idols of his nation and saying, I'm going to worship the one true God, the God of Israel. Can you imagine when Naaman returns home and this little girl sees in front of her this man healed from his leprosy? But not only that, but now a fellow believer. They now share the same God. These people from two different nations, brought together by these strange circumstances, yet her reputation, her faith, her compassion, all led this incredible life change in Naaman. And here he stands before her, having listened to her. Can you imagine their relationship after this? Would he ever look at her the same way again? Would she ever look at him the same way again? Now they're fellow believers, following the one true God, because of a few simple words that she spoke out of compassion, that she generously gave when she could have done nothing. And so my question today to you is there a need you're ignoring? Is there something that you know that needs to be done? Has God already started to pull on your heartstrings about a situation, a person, a circumstance where you can be of help or assistance, but you're deciding not to do anything? Maybe it's time to let that compassion shine through, to lead you to generosity, to the place where you step in and you meet the need that's in front of you. I can't imagine that this little girl knew her few simple words to go see the prophet in Samaria would have such a dramatic impact on Naaman's life. And as we look through Hebrews 11, I can't imagine that each of those folks, as they follow the Lord, thought that he would lead them to these incredible places of victory. But he did. And he will. He'll do it for you as well. Some of you today need to make the decision to take that first step of faith, to move where your compassion is leading you, to meet that need that's in front of you, whether it's extra mile or it's something closer to home, a neighbor, a friend, a family member. You can have a dramatic impact with your compassion leading you to generosity. Now, for some of you, the first step is taking action on the thing that God's leading you to. And for some of you, God's leading you to take the very first step of faith, to meet him, to surrender your life to him. Maybe some of you have been running from this moment. You've been looking for any other way. But let me tell you, there is no other way. There's one way, and he wants to meet with you. This is your chance to make a move in the right direction, to step out in faith and give your life to Jesus Christ. If you want to make that move today, I just want you to pray this simple prayer with me. Dear Lord, I've been running. I've been looking everywhere to try to figure out the things that I need in my life, but now I realize you're the answer. I want to put my faith and trust in the work of your Son, Jesus Christ. I want to surrender my life to you so that you can use me to have an impact, just like this little girl from Israel. You can take little broken things and make them into things of such power that we could never imagine the impact that you will use our lives to create. Lord, I just pray for anyone who's making that response today, that you would meet with them, that you would show them that you're real, and that you would reach into their lives and help them understand how to follow through on these things, to build their reputation, to show their faith, to show compassion, and let that lead them to generosity. Thank you so much for being part of our series, XYZ, and thank you so much for being part of Extra Mile. We love and appreciate all that you bring to Miles City, and I pray that each of you will take these words today and allow God to use you to make an impact.
empty. Shame has no authority. Your love, it won't let go. I know it won't. I know your thoughts, your plans for me are good. I know you hold my future in my hope. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. Healing, freedom, as you speak favor over me. Faith is breaking all impossibility. Your name has overcome. Your name alone. I know your thoughts, your plans for me are good. I know you hold my future in my hope. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. I am standing on every promise that you made. I will see it come to pass in your name, in your name. Jesus, I will trust every word I hear you say. I will see it come to pass in your name, in your name. Oh, I am standing on every promise that you make. I will see it come to pass in your name, in your name. Oh, Jesus, I will trust every word I hear you say. I will see it come to pass in your name, in your name. Oh, I will see it come to pass in your name, in your name. Oh, I will see it come to pass in your name, in your name.
Well, John, thank you for delivering that great message for us. May we not be just hearers of God's word, but may we apply it. And listen, if you made a decision, we want to encourage you not to walk alone, right, Ryan?
Yeah.
Like, don't walk alone. Moving together is better. And so you can just text the number on the screen there, and we want to celebrate with you. We want to answer any questions you have. If you don't end up texting, then we want to challenge you. If you put your faith in Jesus for the first time, just tell someone.
Yeah.
Let someone else know about this life-altering, eternal-altering decision that you've made. And remember, when you're driving around the town and you see the mile signs,
Pray for the Mile City. No, you were waiting for me to say it. I was gonna hand signal it. I don't know. Whatever.
When I wake up, I know that you are with me every step of the way. You're strong enough to handle any fear that I face. Even things that scare me, 'cause they seem too big. Even all the hard things that make me wanna quit. You're bigger than it all, and you're in charge of it. And I don't feel so worried when I look to you, Jesus. Your love is unforgettable. Your strength is undeniable. With you, nothing is impossible. You are the reason, you are the reason I'm brave. You are the reason, you are the reason I'm brave. You are the reason, you are the reason I'm brave. When I look at how great you are, your kindness helps me believe that you are good, and with you I can do anything. Even things that scare me, 'cause they seem too big. Even all the hard things that make me wanna quit. You're bigger than it all, and you're in charge of it. And I don't feel so worried when I look to you, Jesus. Your love is unforgettable. Your strength is undeniable. With you, nothing is impossible. You are the reason, you are the reason I'm brave. You are the reason, you are the reason I'm brave. You are the reason, you are the reason I'm brave. Your love is unforgettable. Your strength is undeniable. With you, nothing is impossible. You are the reason, you are the reason I'm brave. You are the reason, you are the reason I'm brave. You are the reason, you are the reason I'm brave.
Welcome to Story Lab. This week we're talking about courage while we take a look at the story of someone who faced a pretty dark night. Oh, and don't miss this.
Hey, I'm Amaya.
And I'm Zeke.
And we're talking about courage.
That's being brave enough to do what you should do, even when you're afraid.
Even when something unexpected happens.
Unexpected?
How do you feel about the dark?
A little nervous. I mean, I can't see. Can we please have the lights back? Hey!
Lots of people don't like the dark. So I thought we could try something to make dark fun.
Oh, laser tag.
Pew, 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 pew. Or something kids can try at home.
Flashlight tag?
Pew, pew, pew. Or glow in the dark slime.
Oh, I've never made slime.
Me neither.
Alrighty then, let's make it. Okay, what do we use for this experiment?
All right, so we have clear school glue, water, baking soda, and glow powder. First, we put in the glue. Perfect. Next, we add the water. Yes. Next, baking soda. And finally, we add the glow powder. So pretty. And now we stir. And make sure you stir really good. Come on, Zeke, put some muscle in it.
That is not slime.
Not yet, because we still need slime activator.
Saline. My mom uses that to clean her contact lenses.
It contains borate ions.
Glue is made of long chains of molecules called polymers that slide easily past each other. When borate ions are added, they cross-link the protein molecules in the glue so they can no longer slide easily past each other.
So borate ions glue the glue?
Pretty much.
Cool. Let's see what happens. Slime activate.
All right, I'll pour it, you stir.
Oh, I can already feel it hardening. So disgusting and weirdly satisfying.
I know, right?
Get the lights. Whoa.
Look at it glow. That is so cool.
Oh.
I want some.
It's all slimy.
Oh. So cool.
Oh, it's everywhere. Snot in my hands. Oh.
I'm getting all of it. No.
Woo!
Ah!
Okay, the dark can be pretty fun.
Yes, unless you're joined in the dark by extra big, hungry cats.
Is that a spoiler?
Yes, it's time for...
The story before the story.
Today, we're in book 27 of the Old Testament, Daniel.
God had promised to bless the whole world through Abraham's family, the Israelites. God delivered them from slavery and led them to freedom in the land of Canaan.
God gave the Israelites kings to lead them. But while some kings like David listened to God, many of the kings ignored God.
These kings even led the people to worship false gods. And at last, God allowed the Israelites to be conquered by foreign nations.
Yeah, some of the Israelites were even marched off as captives to Babylon.
But one of these captives, a man named Daniel, still loved God and prayed to God every day. And Daniel is a hero of today's story.
Let's go!
Daniel was taken to Babylon as a young man, but even as a captive, he still stood up for the one true God.
We won't make ourselves unclean by eating the king's food. Test us for 10 days. Give us only vegetables to eat.
God blessed Daniel and made him strong and wise. That wisdom and courage gained Daniel a lot of respect, and he actually served as an advisor to several foreign kings over his lifetime. One of them was King Darius, who conquered Babylon. Now, when King Darius took charge, he placed 120 officials over the whole kingdom and put 3 governors over them. One of these 3 men was Daniel. Daniel was so trustworthy and did such a good job that Darius actually made plans to put Daniel in charge of the other 2 governors. So when these other 2 rulers found out about the plan, they were pretty angry. They decided to find something wrong with Daniel they could tell the king about. But even though they spied on Daniel, they couldn't find a thing he'd done wrong.
Not one single lie! But Daniel does have this thing about praying to his God. 3 times a day like clockwork.
The jealous governors and officials perfected a sneaky plan and took it to King Darius.
King Darius, may you live forever. You're so incredibly amazing. We think you should make a special command. What is it? For the next 30 days, no one in the whole kingdom can pray to anyone but you. I like it. And if they pray to someone else, they get thrown into a lion's den.
Where do I sign? Oh, well, King Darius was so flattered that he gave orders for the law to be written down, and he signed it at once. And you have to know this. Once a law of the Medes and Persians was written down, it could not be changed, even by the king himself. When Daniel found out about the law, it would have been easy enough to change his routine and stop going home to pray every day. But Daniel's love for God was greater than his fear of lions. The next morning, as every morning, Daniel knelt in his room and prayed to God.
Thank you that you are always with me, God. Help me honor you in everything I do.
Daniel went to his room to pray again at noon and in the evening, even though he probably knew the other officials were watching him. And sure enough, they were delighted to find Daniel disobeying the king's law. Oh, they rushed after the king as fast as they could.
King Darius, didn't you sign an order that for 30 days no one can pray to anyone but you? Huh? Oh, I did. Or they'd be thrown into a lion's den. Well, no one would risk it. Except Daniel! He still prays to his God 3 times every day.
When Darius realized he'd been trapped, he was very upset. He didn't want Daniel to be harmed, but even he couldn't find a way around the law. So at sunset, the king called for Daniel to be brought out and thrown in the lion's den.
Daniel, you always serve your God faithfully, so may he save you.
Then Daniel was shoved into the dark den, and a stone was placed over the entrance. Now, we don't know exactly what Daniel felt alone in that deep, dark place with prowling lions. But in the palace, the king was so sick with fear he couldn't sleep. As soon as the sun rose, he hurried back to the lion's den.
Daniel, you serve the living God. Has he been able to save you from the lion?
Morning sunlight revealed Daniel with the powerful lions curled up around him, tame as house cats.
My God sent his angel to shut the mouths of the lions. They haven't hurt me at all.
Oh, lift him out of the den at once.
Daniel was completely unharmed. The king was so amazed that he wrote a letter to everyone in the kingdom.
I order people in every part of my kingdom to respect and honor Daniel's God. He is the living God. He has saved Daniel from the power of the lions.
Daniel continued to serve the king, and because of Daniel's courage, every person in the land heard about the one true God. The end.
A whole den full of lions. Daniel must have been so scared.
Oh, for sure, but he could look back on the times that God had helped him. He trusted God to be with him no matter what.
So, what's our part in this story?
Well, okay, maybe your mom told you to take the trash to the curb hours ago, but you forgot and now it's dark. It might be tempting to just skip it, but you can trust God to be with you while you do it.
Or maybe you have to give a book report in front of the whole class and it's your first time, so you're super nervous.
It would be easy to just tell the teacher you lost your voice and can't quite do it.
Yeah, but truth is, you can trust that God is with you even in front of the class.
Yeah, God knows we all struggle with fear sometimes. That's one of the reasons God gave us Jesus. When we believe in Jesus and follow him, we have God's Spirit to help us face anything that comes our way, from a book report to a barking dog to a mean kid.
I think we've got it.
Thank you, Brian.
See you next time.
So here's the thing. You can do what you should because God is with you.
Too bad Daniel didn't have this stuff to glow in the lion's den.
Yeah, I don't think you can ever get that out of Big Cat Fur.
I don't think I'm ever gonna get it off my hands.
Thanks for joining us in the Story Lab. See you next time.